Let's get ready to find the upside. I hope I didn't just have to pay Michael Buffer $1 million for that. But welcome to everyone on this episode of the Risk Reward Show. My name is Chris Mercado, aka Mr. Risk, and as usual, I am joined by
Mr. Reward.
and we are here to help you find the upside in your careers and in your money. So the opening was a bit of an allusion to the opening of the previous verses. So we're gonna be a bit New York centric, but the Locks versus Dipset, that was entertaining. We want to bring that same energy, or at least the same energy that Jadakiss brought, so that we can again dominate the space of helping you all, with your business ventures, money concerns, and your career objectives. So as usual, we will start with our Risk Reward Weekly Rewind. Derek, take it away.
So I just want to bring it back really quickly to that versus battle, and I just want to say that if anybody was curious about what the '90s was in like the early 2000s was, I feel like it was that in terms of like you can literally just joke around with people and you thought it might get serious, but it was always that like sense of danger that like would possibly happen. So I'm very happy that honestly that was my favorite verses. I think it was so on point. I love the fact they were actually going back to back, not just like doing song for song, but like actually talking and joking. So I hope verses really takes notice of that and starts to do that for other people, and hopefully concerts in general would end up to be like versus battles. Rather than just like, you have one person doing a song or, one person doing like an album, but like really have, two artists go back to back, song to song, joke for joke. But Cameron had some of the best jokes there. Jadakiss just had the best, vibe there. But
No,
yeah,
that's a great point. And I will let all our audience members, again, thank you for liking and following and sharing. But for any of the folks who see this, who maybe are in New York, but like weren't from New York, or if you're not in New York at all, and you don't know how folks uptown of a certain generation act, that was exactly it. Like that is what I grew up with when I was living in Harlem and going to school in Harlem. That is like authentic New York. That is authentic Harlem. And yeah, it brought back a lot of memories. But that's that energy.
yeah,
Folks were just cracking on each other, and yeah, like it's competitive, and it might not fit what's accepted now, but I do think if
definitely
you want
won't.
a full understanding of how folks, again, of a certain generation who grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s listening to that music, like you should get to know what that's like. And it's not deficient, it's just different.
Yeah. And one thing that you can clearly see was that the fact that Jada came in with Tim's and some camo shorts, he was like ready for war. I feel like Dipset was just way too cool for like the entire show. So swag doesn't always win. I feel like Jada really proved that. But it was good. Like I feel like all of the songs that they both played were just hits, back to back hits. But definitely Jadakiss as well as like the Locks, their numbers shot up right after this verses. Like their like Spotify numbers went up. They're probably like Apple Music numbers went up. So we just need to make sure that they get their flowers now.
Definitely. Competition isn't necessarily a bad thing, y'all. Embrace it.
Yeah, cool. So one thing I found to be really cool this week is that Apple, they're going to be releasing another this update pretty soon, and it's going to have a this feature that I think personally goes against what Apple stands by in terms of like they're like the company that respects people's privacy. I mean, what they're doing is very, very noble, but when it comes to having some tech like this, people are very, very, not scared, but they're just worried about what Apple maybe actually searching for. But basically what Apple is doing is they're going to be releasing this new update with this new program called the neural hash, which is basically going to be scanning phones and images for any like sexual abuse of, think of like any child porn or any like any type of videos, audio dealing with child abuse. And basically it will be flagged and then sent to a human team, which I think is smart. And then they would review it, and then possibly if it comes to something that is deemed as like child porn, then they will report the authorities. Now, for parents, governing bodies, people that have been fighting this, I think this is something that they're happy for, because a lot of people have like been pushing for tech companies to really be on like the forefront of stopping crimes like this. But you have other people that are saying, Apple is the privacy company, so why are they searching through my phone to get to scan my photos and stuff like that? And who knows what are they actually scanning for? Like, they may say it's for this, but what are they really, really going for? So for me, Chris, I do feel like this is going against what they stand on. So me personally, I mean, it is a very noble thing to do, but I think they're going too far. I think there are other ways that they can possibly help out, find people who are, doing like child porn and stuff like that. But what's your take on it?
So strong stance there, Derek. And yes, it does go against their noted emphasis on privacy. However, I'm going to take the other side of this, because privacy isn't an issue that's a standalone one. It is in concert with the idea of security, right? So you trade a little bit of privacy for other benefits like security, or things like access or convenience, right? So privacy does not sit on its own dimension. It affects those other components. So when I look at it from that framework, what Apple is doing is sacrificing some of our individual privacy for greater security, in terms of looking out for children who've been victimized sexually through like some content. So imagine the value of this, where that human team reviews some videos, and by doing so, either triggers some actions by law enforcement authorities, or at the very least, prevent that video from being amplified in either the dark web, right? So, or traditional channels like Twitter, right? So what happens is Apple may have, in a sense, invaded some of our privacy a little bit, so that we can provide greater security for like the ecosystem as a whole. I'm totally fine with that. In fact, what took so long? It's about damn time, right? Facebook should have done this, but even if their issue or like their core like value wasn't centered around privacy, Facebook should have done this. The point that I do want to amplify is these human teams.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That review hours and hours worth every day of explicit content, some of which they might find really disturbing. They not only need to be paid well, they need like certain guardrails and supports, like free access to mental health counseling on a regular basis, because they are exposed to this. And there's not enough research being done on the emotional, mental, psychological damage that happens in these roles where you are in front of a screen for so long, seeing so many different kinds of explicit material.
Yeah. That's true. Companies really do need to take notice, especially Apple, if they're going to have a team of like, people actually doing this. But my point for that is I really think it's key that people understand how the tech is being used to filter certain things, but then you have an actual human that can really say like, oh, like this is bad. We should report this to the cops or something. I think a lot of people, when they hear about tech is being automated, or tech is doing this and tech is doing that, you may think that it's all tech. But the fact that they have a human team that's really there to like, hey, this is good, or this isn't what it should be, or this is not classified as child porn. I think that's key too, and the fact that they're bringing the human feel to this bigger process, I think it's key.
It is. I'm super curious about what that training is like, and we do get into like very adult topics like, so how are you going to distinguish between, let's say, two teenagers exploring their sexuality,
Yeah.
maybe rough play, versus something that is, abusive and coercive, right? And it's not always going to be clear. So I'm very, very interested in how these big companies, and they sure have the resources for it, create these trainings in terms of how the people working on that team distinguish. But the bigger concern is also, how do you look out for that team after being exposed to so much content?
Yeah, because they're good. I'm pretty sure they're going to be going through hours of footage and photos. So that alone is going to train your brain to just not care. So they definitely need some help in terms of like coping with that.
Good points. And this is further proof to our audience that we do not duck away from really tough conversations. So if you're ready to have those difficult talks, come over, share, like, and follow us on YouTube and other platforms. This is probably a good time to transition into our main topic, which is burnout. So we were somewhat alluding to the burnout that those human teams on Apple might experience in the long run, but we can pull back on our own career trajectory and maybe our current roles or maybe past roles, and see how burnout has really affected us. And I would want folks who are watching this live, or even after this episode is done, do the rewatch. I want you all to comment, like, what signs of burnout have you displayed, either in your current role or in past roles? Because over the next 2 weeks, 2 episodes, we're going to delve deeply into this idea of burnout. I know that I myself have experienced it fairly recently. In fact, for a great part of this pandemic, and I'm not even calling it post-pandemic, but like post-vaccine, and with cities opening up, I still felt a greater sense of burnout than I did previous to the pandemic. So we're gonna start off with sort of the lay of the land on how we view burnout, and I'll start with you, Derek. What does burnout mean to you? What are some signs that you've seen in yourself regarding burnout?
When it comes to burnout, the weird thing is that you don't see it. Like, if you were to break your arm, like you can see the bone like broken, stuff like that. But when it comes to burnout, there's certain things that you can't actually see. Like you can't see the fact that you don't care. Like you may start to realize it, but it's something that you can't see. So I think it's very important for you to be like very self-aware in terms of knowing when you start to see the changes in like your work. Specifically for me, like I've had burnout before. where I didn't really want to go to work, or I would want to, go on to work late, would leave early. I wasn't so, happy to be there. My work wasn't, the best and stuff like that.
So
Like you
how
could
did that
see.
affect how did that affect your non-work life?
Non-work life, I was just exhausted. Like I was just tired. I just kept on sleeping. I just didn't do anything, not positive, but I just didn't do anything to make the situation better. Like rather than really working on me and just figuring out like, hey, I see this is not right. How can I fix it? Like I just sat there and just sulked in like that moment, whether it be just like eating poorly, um, you know, drinking probably, just like things that aren't, you know, um, beneficial to me. So that's how it would affect like your outside life rather than, the actual work life. So I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, it's like it really does hinder you with regards to like work and stuff like that. But I feel like when I try to think about things, I try to find like the upside also. So if you're experiencing burnout, I think that is a trigger for you to know of what you don't like. And if you don't like something, I think it's on you as like a person to kind of get out of that comfort zone and find something different. And I feel like that can lead to some type of like positive like transformation too. Like if you're at a job and you're constantly stressed out and burnt out, maybe it's time for you to move on and do something that you actually like. And burnout was just a way for you to get that like that moment of like, oh yes, like it's time now. So I do see a reward for a burnout. I'm not sure if it's, something that's popular, but what's your take on it?
Those are the points that I would normally hold on to. So I think that you bring up great points. If folks have not experienced the limits of burnout, that might let me know they haven't tried hard enough. They haven't challenged themselves enough to get to that space where, listen, I have exhausted myself. I have done my very, very best, and I can't do anymore. I want everyone to get to that limit, whatever their arena is. It could be in sports, it could be in finance. That boundary of where burnout is, I am more concerned about is chronic burnout. You can't be in that space all the time. That
Yeah.
is such a huge drain. So because my persona is Mr. Risk, if I see chronic burnout, I might also see folks that lash out to folks who are totally innocent from like whatever the source of that burnout is. Like if it's work related, this could be my lashing out to relatives for nothing work related. It
Yeah.
could be something really insignificant, but because that burnout is adding to levels of stress, you might there might be a spillover in other aspects of your life, and we don't want to do that. What I would prefer is if there's a root problem, you address that root problem and leave
Mhm.
everybody innocent as innocent. The other thing about chronic burnout that is at the top of my mind is coping mechanisms. Burnout, especially chronic burnout, tests how well you cope. So if you go out for a drink with friends on a Friday as a way of de-stressing from a hard week of work, that's fine. But if those drinks become 8 drinks, drinking alone, not just on Fridays, then there's this bigger issue of, well, how do you cope with stress? Because you can't get rid of stress. You can't get rid of pressure. That
Mhm.
would be a boring life if you had no stress and no pressure. So it really it really comes down to you navigating how you cope with what comes at you. And chronic burnout is one good way to test out, well, how do I cope? Do I go to the gym and exercise in a healthy dose? There are some
Yeah.
people who over exercise. There are people who emotionally eat. You want to smoke weed for recreation? Fine. If that is if you're dependent on that to cope with like the stresses of life, you might have some bigger issues. So that is the second uh, big idea that comes to mind when we talk about chronic burnout. And then the big thing for me as someone who's very task oriented is chronic burnout. It feels like you're doing a lot, but you're not actually being productive. So we lose track of the effort and the time it takes to create a certain outcome. So even though we might be putting in a lot of effort and time, it may not be effective for that desired outcome. And when we have chronic burnout, this is what I've noticed in myself most recently. I'll put in the effort, I'll put in the time. It's not optimal effort, it's not optimal time, and I haven't gotten optimal results. And part of that has been burnout.
Honestly, I'm still laughing at it when you said your life is nothing if you don't have pressure and stress.
I didn't say it was nothing. I said it was boring.
Boring, yeah.
So you might still have a life, just might not be an exciting one.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, the fact that that chronic and like that long lasting burnout, I think that's something that has everyone has felt, especially during COVID, going from like remote, and the fact that you can like work from anywhere. People think work means like it's a 24-hour thing and not separating work from like life. I think that's something that a lot of people are probably going through now, and the different ways that they cope with it, whether it be healthy or not healthy. I think that's where we got to really figure out what's best for you. But the fact that you were very self-aware to know that you're not giving your best, and if you don't give your best, you don't have those best results. I think like that's key too. But has there been any, like, do you have certain triggers that cause your burnout, whether it be like you're overworked or lack of clarity, or
So lack of clarity and freedom
Mhm.
is one. So the way I approach org clients is, you know what? If you're asking me to make magic in the kitchen, let me buy the ingredients.
Yeah.
So let me do my thing, right? Let me pick and choose the tools that I need, the people that I need to work on a particular outcome. And I'd rather do it from folks on my team. If I have to work with folks from another team, right? Because my business is enterprise, like business to business clients. I have to interface with folks where, those weren't the ingredients that I bought. And this is something where, again, I have to step up and say, you know what, you have to maneuver different systems here and find something that works. At the same time, in working in those other rules, what happens is there's this tussle between my conventions and another company's conventions that prolong decision making, task deliverables, and it extends the workday. So that ends up contributing to burnout. And then one other thing that has like arisen, and as Grant Answers has navigated projects across time zones, is you have to adapt to like time zones 4 hours behind. And that doesn't always have to mean that you're up at those hours, but sometimes it does.
Mhm.
And it's unavoidable, right? So what parameters do you set for yourself? Are you overly accommodating, where sure, I'll listen to, I'll stay on just so I can be as responsive as possible, or no, I have a hard cutoff from 7 to 3, right? That's when I work, and a team on like another time zone and be like, well, what do we do from 3 to 6 when we're working? We'll just wait till the next day. That's fine for some folks. I think we all need to do a better job of thinking, you know what? Does this really have to be done right now? Can it be done the next day? Right. But once you push it off to the next day, make sure it's done. And in recent times, I've found that a little difficult.
Yeah. Another thing I will add is that not only your personal life, I mean your career life, you'll have burnout, but also in like your personal life, whether that be with like family, relationships, like that's something that's always there. So
how do people date the same person for 3 years and like not be married? Isn't that like, for me, I was like, did you all not experience burnout with that? Like, take it to the next step. Come on.
Yeah. Take it to the next step. What's next? Yeah, exactly. So just know that there are, you know, ways for you to, you know, have burnout in all types of life, personal, career, but being you and just being self-aware and just really knowing like you, and when you're seeing like yourself slack off, I think that's important too.
Yeah. So in personal life, let's take it away from intimate partner relationships. You can go to family relationships. There's burnout when you have to look out for other relatives that is often never discussed. It's sort of like, well, you know, family is held in such high regard. You almost have to look out for your family. So if you approach it that way, what often is missed is, you know what, this is heavy. This weighs on me. And we don't want to hurt family, so we don't often communicate this. Sometimes it needs an external pair of eyes to really let us know, like, listen, you're doing too much for your family, or you've set aside too much of your own like skill sets and like potential, and maybe you need to reach like a different balance. I've seen this with new mothers devoted their entire lives to their children, which they're expected to do. And I understand why they do it. But I also don't like the thought of amazing women like not exploring their individual potential. And I think it's our job as men, but also, you know, other family supports or friend supports, to look out for those new mothers, especially, so that they are back in a workforce, or if they want to run their businesses, like whatever, they are back in those spaces where they can reclaim their leadership positions or their leadership potential.
Yeah. Something that I've learned over the years is it's okay to distance yourself from family, because it does get pretty heavy. So don't feel bad about, you know, changing, about growing, because when you do grow, it does get lonelier. So just be aware of that and know that it's okay.
Heavy. Man, this is a heavy Monday here, but I think it's vital. And again, these are the difficult conversations. Look, you can find outrageous comments elsewhere, right? We'll throw in a few here and there, but we'll back it up with decent perspectives and facts. We're not just going to throw out outrageous things for the sake of it. But we love these heavy conversations. So please engage with us. Feel free to comment. If you disagree with some of our takes, please do.
Bring the smoke.
Derek and I disagree all the time. This is like the basis of the Risk Reward Show. So we welcome it, but especially with some of these finer points on burnout, whether it's your partner, your family, or at work, they all affect each other, like those aspects of our lives. Sometimes they all affect each other, and I think having this open and like really in-depth conversation that's again going to carry us to part 2 of this episode next week
Mhm.
is going to be really helpful for folks to tune in. So
Awesome.
with that in mind, we're going to go straight to our right move right now. So we have a really, really active earnings week, not just for the financial markets in general, but also some of our own personal portfolios. So Derek, what are some companies that are on your radar regarding their earnings for this quarter?
So I have Airbnb, AMC, Chegg, Coinbase, Upstart, Fubo TV, Palantir, Disney, and because of you, I have SoFi.
Okay, so I want you to flex a little bit on Upstart. I know you got some wins on that. So
Yeah.
talk percentages here, Derek.
Hold on. I'll tell you right now. Let me pull it up. I'm going on Robinhood to check.
Flex on them.
Upstart was I heard it on Downtown Josh, and he brought in somebody that spoke very, very highly of Upstart. And then I did like some research. I found out that they're like a growing company, and basically what they do is they provide like personal loans. But they're doing very, very well with regards to the companies that they are, or sorry, like the banks that they're working with. But right now in total, I have a 75% gain return on Upstart. So I got Upstart when it was, I'll tell you right now, Upstart was in like the low 70s, and right now it's at 138. The highest it's ever been was 191, and you better believe I cashed out when it hit that high. But I still kept some money in there, and I'm a long-term holder of Upstart. So 75% gain in Upstart, baby.
Not bad. So how about the other companies? I heard a little ring to your voice when you said Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb is for them right now. I don't hold like a whole bunch of stock, but I just, like still have them. I think Airbnb is a really, really good company. Me myself, the fact that I'm kind of dabbling with like houses and stuff like that, I definitely want to have like my own. So I think that's a company that I'm gonna keep on for long term. Coinbase, my the crypto baby. So I feel like for anything that's crypto related, I'm going to be very, very bullish on. But Disney, I mean, like the mouse you can't really fight the mouse. I mean, recently people have been fighting the mouse. Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney for putting her movie out on Disney Plus, and she's not earning all of the revenue from it. So, but besides that, I think Disney is like a solid company. Their streaming numbers are going way up. And SoFi, I added because I know you're a holder in SoFi.
Yes. So I'm glad you added SoFi. I'm waiting for this earnings to see if there's a dip, and I will buy the second third of my position.
Mm-hmm.
SoFi to me is sort of like makeup territory when I had Square at like 35 during the pandemic, and I wrote it up, but I let go way too
Square
early.
was at 35.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So I know how to pick them. I just sometimes don't know how to hold them.
Yeah.
Right. So I got a little too fine with like the whole trading around a position, and I let that go. Silicon Valley Bank was the same issue, right? So I had two winners, but I let go way too early. So with that said, again, I'm in decent shape. SoFi is going to be like that next fintech-ish call for me. And this time, again, as long as the fundamentals align, I vow not to let go early like I did in those previous two financial related companies. So Derek, please hold me to that.
I got you.
All right. And I'll put a couple of other companies on the radar. So Palantir also reports this week. And again, really not the greatest fan of the company. But what I did was, it's lagged or stalled out for the past several months, and actually bought some upside calls. So very light position. I've made some money in Palantir calls in the past, but I made some light money on that. Another company, which again, we've discussed some of these in our previous episodes. There's one particular episode where I opened up my portfolio, right? For transparency's sake. So I hope folks have seen that episode and can build off of that. But some of those same companies are still on my radar. One of them is Jumia, again, labeled as like the Amazon of Africa. I had it from 10 all the way down to 2, all the way up to 60, and it's around 23 now. So I still have a position, and I bought some upside calls for, what I think is a bump up, hopefully. And another company is Unity Software. So when we get to gaming, I rode that up from around the 70s to 110, and I sold half of my position. So I didn't sell all of it because I wanted to wait to see what earnings look like. So hopefully those details allow me to come back in, right? So good or bad, I'm gonna, invest a little bit more in Unity. So this is a pretty active week. It's the one where I'm a little bit cautious because we are at kind of a top in a market. But that doesn't mean you can't outperform during this period with solid individual stocks. So keep that discipline. I'm always trying to be more disciplined. Sometimes we all get sloppy, things go on, but if you have some rules set out for yourself and continue to do the research, you should be all right in terms of long-term investing. And I'll let the people know out there that I have calmed down in terms of all the options and like the frequent trading. So it's probably better off that I revert to this, and it's probably better off for everyone.
Yeah, this is a chill time. I think for everyone, especially what's happening with like the new COVID rules, inflation and stuff like that. New bills are passing and stuff, so everybody's literally just waiting to see what's happening.
And yes, so definitely for sure. So that wraps up one part of our right move right now. I think the second part that I'll throw in is I went to a pop-up curated by HBO Max, specifically some of the team in HBO Latino. And they created in the Heights or Inwood a House of Bachata pop-up right in a neighborhood with such a large Dominican community. But this pop-up is a preview of Romeo Santos's documentary.
Romeo. So you got to say Romeo. You got to roll the R.
All right, I will roll that. Romeo Santos, right? Yes. And if you weren't, I know we were talking about Dipset and the Locks, but around the same time, if you were uptown like me, if you were around my Dominican friends, especially the ladies, I could not describe to you how big Aventura was.
Oh.
It's like you could not, like Aventura is mentioned in like Drake's rap songs from like 2009.
Yeah.
Right. And like how big they were, especially because like they rose from like the Bronx. But I'm really excited to see this documentary. I think HBO Max has pound for pound, the best content. They may not be the biggest platform, but their documentaries are hard hitting, so well done. And this pop up was amazing. It looked like a bodega, and I went in there for a haircut.
Oh wow,
they had
haircuts.
Haircuts, right? I went there for a haircut and open mic night, right?
Yeah,
amazing. So shout out to HBO Max, that team at Palante HBO, Presidente for the sponsorship. Amazing. I think for all the businesses out there, the big brands, like these very like culturally relevant pop-ups, like those are the ones that hit home. They could have chose any location in New York. They chose one behind the projects in Inwood because it was more authentic. And I think the social media amplification that they got from it is well worth all that money they threw for it.
That's what's up. Yeah, the fact that you can go there and get a haircut is wild.
yeah, they made it super authentic. And yes, Romeo Santos. And we encourage you to watch that doc. And once that comes out, again, Derek and I are trying to make moves in his content space. So we celebrate great content when we see it. So
most definitely.
Let's support that. So that brings us to a close. Again, thank you all for your support. We have part 2 on this conversation on burnout next week. We start to talk about some of the ways we have addressed it, how many the different ways we can prevent it in the first place. And we invite you all to, again, subscribe, follow, like, and share. Bring on some of your colleagues, your friends, your family members who really are suffering from burnout, so that we can, again, take care of this as quickly as we can, and we can help you all find the upside in your career, in your financial lives, and also in your personal lives. So see you all next week. Thank you very much.